You're listening to Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We're coming to you from the unceded traditional territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. I'm your host, Bernadine Fox, and this is the show that dares to change how we think about mental health. Welcome to Rethreading Madness.
I can't seem to find my way under or over or through. Just when I'm ready to give up the fight, there you are when we turn out the lights, and it's alright, it's alright.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm your host, Bernadine Fox, and today, Rethreading Madness is coming to you from the Tsuut'ina Nation on Treaty 7 land. Tsuut'ina is part of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which also includes Siksika, Kainai, and the Kainai Nations here in southern Alberta. We have a special program today interviewing Keith Chiefmoon, an elder of the Kainai Nation. He has worked in the correctional facilities across Canada and the USA, trying to undo the damage caused by systemic discrimination and colonial government tactics, which has resulted in an overwhelming number of incarcerated Indigenous people. He is also a certified teacher and a survivor of residential school. So stay tuned, we'll be right back.
The Greater Vancouver Food Bank has been providing support for our cities for almost 40 years and has been vital to helping thousands of community members through the COVID-19 crisis. To find out how you might benefit from the Greater Vancouver Food Bank's services, or to learn how you might donate money or volunteer your time, please visit their website at foodbank.bc.ca.
So welcome to our show. Today we're going to talk to Keith Chiefmoon about something he has done for over 35 years, which has been and continues to be controversial. But to start with, Keith, I gave a little bit of a bio about you. Is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
It's just that I overcame the many challenges, and that includes the alcohol and drug.
Right.
That was a contributing step. That's one of the things that I overcame, and that's one of the things that really escalated. And I realized it was an eye opener for me, because that's when I realized that you don't need to do all those alcohol and drugs because to enjoy life to its fullest. Mm-hmm. And that particular, before I got into it, I was caught up in it, and I was at the point in time that I was thinking there is no if this is what life is all about, then what's the point? What's the point of continue on this journey? Because there's nothing besides getting diluted and all that, and doing crazy stuff and getting thrown in jail, and you have to see the judge, and then he puts you away for anywhere from 6 months to years and all that. And it didn't serve a purpose.
No.
So
well,
that's just,
I think that drugs and alcohol are a very damaging, destructive thing in our lives. But I think,
yes.
I think that it is also true that drugs and alcohol numb pain. And if you're in extreme pain, it does serve the purpose of numbing pain. I know that's a bit controversial to say, but yes. You are a survivor of residential school, and that in and of itself, so I mean, it's become sort of a label that has lost its meaning on some level. But it just because it's been, I don't know how to describe that, but it, as a survivor of residential school, that to me means that you went through hell as a child. We all survive how we survive. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you have recovered from that addiction, and that you are giving back in the ways that you're giving back.
yes.
You facilitate a Sundance in southern Alberta, but the Sundance does what others don't, which it invites people of all nations to participate. And so to start with, I know that facilitate is not the right word. I think, as you said it, that the English bastardizes Blackfoot words and meaning. It doesn't really translate that well. How would you describe what you do for the Sundance?
Well, I guess when I wanted to do this, I being on this road of trying to better myself, trying to improve the communities into into our traditional ways of life, what I call Gemapipitsin. That's a Blackfoot word, means compassion. And following on the straight and narrow honesty, all the ways of for a holistic community where you become, and that was the journey that I was trying to do more of. So as a sun dancer, like when the sun gets up in the morning, when we see it, it shines on every human being. It doesn't matter if it's just going to shine on Bernadine today, and I've been bad when it shine on me. It treats everybody with utmost respect. And the energy that you get from the sun is it's very, very, I guess you'd say, very, the energy that you get, and the idea is to try and do it in a good way.
Keith, can you tell us how or where or in what capacity, all very colonial words, you came to be doing the Sundance the way you do it?
Okay, just to answer the question there, it all started with the like we have ceremonies here on reserves, teachings, and how I became involved was that as growing up and a survivor of the residential school, I saw a lot of this very there's a big thrust to colonize and to domesticate. In our language, we call need, sitapi, that means us. And that's Blackfoot word for who we are. So the idea here was that there was a real, the government's policy was to totally destroy it, just totally, like I said, domesticate us, colonize us, and that our ways were of no value to me. And again, I just wanted to, I think I mentioned briefly before, wanted to acknowledge my savage heritage and my wagon burner heritage and my, I think there's a guy by the name of Cotton Mather. He viewed in what was a common reference to us that we were doleful creatures of the various ruins of mankind found on Earth. So I want to acknowledge that because we are various ruins. So the whole idea I saw as growing up that there was a big push for us to follow the way, and I saw back then that their ways was totally foreign to us. As I grew up, I saw there's this very a dichotomization of viewpoints, traditions, beliefs, and then I saw the I guess to put it in my terms, when you walk your talk, it wasn't happening, and that's what and I saw it in the Christian scenario there that there were a lot of things these guys were defying their principles. So the whole idea about this ceremony is I grew up with that, realizing that because my dad would sit down and just he'd sit and every morning he'd start the day off with he'd be praying our language, say I are not being outdoors. And he'd say, what that means, the creator, the powerful one. He didn't say he had a beard and he just said was just a higher power. So the whole idea was that all these things were coming to me. But at the school, we were told that we would never amount to anything, that we were lazy, that we were special needs, that we were totally that we would never amount to anything, and that was pounded into our minds on a daily basis. I guess you'd say a very propaganda was just for us that we were no good.
Right.
So right through from elementary, I saw this in that residential school, and that's where in my opinion, that's where I was introduced to this physical violence. and all the things that are attributed to it, being selfish. And us, I was raised with being very holistic, very, caring and sharing what you have and being in a helpful mode, as opposed to when I was at residential school, you were picked on, you got beat up. I got beat up, and I was so, and again, it was very, very kind of, that the formula was not a very good formula, because my mom was she was categorized as a Catholic, and my dad got into it, the Anglicans. So back then, there was this holy war was going on, and they were teaching us that we had to do that. So the whole idea about this European influence was very confusing,
Mm-hmm.
and it did not. So as I grew up with that, it started to gnaw at me that I have nothing. There's nothing for me in life.
Mm.
And so when I got into alcohol and drugs and trying to forget about them, when I did that, it made me forget the all these things, and that it had a different effect on me. But I did, but it was only temporary. So, anyways, then it became habitual. I always went into that. So the whole idea was the influence of Europeans was really to destroy us, and it was everybody was doing that, and the society as a whole, the average Canadian that was their goal.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we had our ways, our way of and it's not a religion, it's a way of life. So that's when I got involved with that's when at a young age, then I realized, and it came to the point to a crossroads that in one of my drunken sprees, I woke up and then realized that I was that what is the purpose of life? It's just the idea of getting getting sloshed in alcohol and drugs, and you think that's because my dad was telling me you shouldn't be doing that. It's not good for you. They kept encouraging me. So that's when I realized I was coming to the point there because of the fact that you go. As soon as I had my high school diploma, I thought I would be able to apply myself and obtain employment in the surrounding towns.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for a job, and nobody would hire me. They said, "No,
Mm-hmm.
we don't hire you." But I had my high school. I was told I could get a job because of my high school diploma. They said, "No,"
Right.
and that was very frustrating. That caused me to. It escalated I guess my concept of who I was. That
So, can I just be clear that the reason you didn't get
yes,
a job is because of the color of your skin?
yes, exactly.
Yes. I
It
just
was
want
very.
my
That's what.
audience to be clear about that.
Yeah, that's because I was a First Nation, the
Right.
Indigenous, to be. Uh, I was told it. The only one that would hire me was a farmer who was farming on a reservation, and, the only reason why he hired me is because he was renting my dad's land.
Right.
So there's a bit of a kind of a PR on his part there. So that's when I realized that this is not making sense. So, and that's what it's very racist here in southern Alberta.
Yes.
But
It's racist mostly across Canada, but southern
yeah,
Alberta and
it is.
Saskatchewan particularly, I would say that's true.
And in my opinion, it's a Canadian culture
Mm-hmm.
to be racist against First Nations, Indigenous people, and we're still hearing horror stories across Canada and the healthcare system and all that. So,
Absolutely.
anyways, that was what was before me, and it was very frustrating. And so that's when I was doing my dad told me to not to give up. We call the word ikak, which is don't give up. Try
Mm-hmm.
hard. If you make a mistake, just try hard. So, anyways, so I was going with all those contributing factors. The scenario is not a very good. Like it doesn't look very good positive. It's going to head for destruction. So as I became older and I got involved with realizing who I was, and because of my heritage, my savage heritage, and wagon burner, and then somehow my great grandpa, Red Crow, he had a lot of things like that. He had some very important principles that he shared with the family. So that was always in the back of my mind because of the fact that he dealt with all these obstacles and challenges, probably in a very higher form than what I was doing. So I had to really try and concentrate. So the whole idea was that what's the purpose of this trying life? So then that's what I got. I started to realize that our way of life was had much more message to me. So that's when I realized that to be a sundancer was to follow the path of the ways of the sun. When I first started doing that, I said, "Oh, I can do that standing on my head. That's so
Hmm.
easy." Just, but then I realized I had personal attributes. Like I had people that hurted me,
Hmm.
particularly competitions or neighboring towns. I said, if I ever get a chance, it's payback time. I'll get even with them. I'll do what I can to get back. What they did to me, I'll do what I can to hurt them back. But when I became a sun dancer, that's when I realized I had to look at myself and the things that I did. So as a way of life, I had to address all those harm that I was subjected to. So then, in our ways, forgiveness is a very, very important value. And I looked at it, and my dad used to say, it's, we call it bakhta. It's a Blackfoot word means okay. Then it was a mistake. So, anyways, it was really hard. I mean, it's easier said than done because I still every now and then I get triggered into a scenario where was where I was harmed and where they did damage to us, not myself, but I see to our own people.
Hmm.
So that was an attribute that I had to deal with. It was a really challenging attribute because at first I thought, oh, that's not a problem because I had to walk my talk.
Hmm.
So as part of the Sundance, I had to look out every day. As when the sun gets up, he treats every human being in the utmost respect. If it's us, the Nichitapi, the savages, wagon burners, all this, he treats them with the utmost respect. Even the Caucasians, the black people, Asians, and all. He shines on everybody in a very with equality. So that's what I had. And again, it was hard to do. So I started going that way. And that was so when I went up on asked to do this ceremony, and through the encouragement of my uncle sought me out and he said, I want you to, this is the ceremony that I want that you have chosen to do.
Hmm.
And I was scared. I said, I can't do that because I make too many mistakes. And who am I to do this ceremony? I'm basically nobody.
Hmm.
But he said, no, just listen. I'll encourage you. So with the encouragement of my aunt and my uncle, and they were traditional ceremonies on a reservation there. They did a lot of things in the traditional ways, and they did a lot of things. In fact, one of the things that my uncle did was that there was a sacred pipe that was taken from and put in the Alberta Museum, and we need that pipe to do certain ceremonies. So he went up to the Alberta Museum asking for that pipe, and the museum said, no, you're not going to give that. No way, we're not going to give it to you. I said, but that's our that's us. That is part of our way of life. But they said, no. You're not going to take it back. So he was very upset about that. So, and he asked that he asked the creator, he had a little ceremony with himself, and he says, well, this is very important to us. We need to have that ceremony because that pipe, in our opinion, was crying. I was really upset. He wanted to come home. Home was on the blood reserve. So and he was basically uh, addressing that issue about the pipe. So he did his little ceremony, prayed, and asked the creator, okay, we need to bring that pipe home. So the next day he went back to the museum, and this time he didn't talk to nobody. He just walked right in. He walked in, and where it was, he went up there, opened that that little container, little cage that they have a glass display. He opened it, took the pipe out, and went home. And the next later on that day, security were wondering where's that pipe. And to this day, they still don't know what happened. And my uncle said, so what they did is, when he tells the story, he said the Creator helped him. He just put everybody to sleep. And he showed this where you go. And we still have the pipe came home. So it's on reserve. And I think they're still looking for it. So, but that's what so my uncle was basically my mentor. He said, this is the ceremony to do. The ceremony, the Sundance that I do. So that was with the support of him. And then I start to realize that, well, yeah, maybe there is something more to it than just. So that's how I became to facilitate the Sundance itself. But
so we're just going to take a little break, Keith. But when we come back, I'm going to get you to finish that story because it's a fascinating story. So hold on, folks. We'll be right back.
So you're feeling a little downhearted, but you know it's gonna come true. You don't know how it all got started, but it's gonna be right here for you. Right here for you. You were young and so naive then, and anything is what you might do. They took the baby from the chamber, left your heart on the floor too. Left your heart. Boy's a man at 21 now, and looking for his mother too. He doesn't know how it all got started, but he's gonna be searching for you. Searching, it's true. We met at the airport half a life later, wide-eyed and wondering too. He wrapped his arms around his mother. Now it's gonna be right here for you. Right here for you. It's gonna be right here. It's always been right here.
Hey, did you know Red Eye has a podcast? You can tune in to Red Eye every Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon, And now you can catch our interviews anytime. Look for the Red Eye Podcast on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, or a host of other podcast apps. Or you can check out our latest episode right on our website, coopradio.org/redeye.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and today I'm talking with Keith Chiefmoon about the Sundance here on the Kainai and Treaty 7 land. Keith, can you finish that fascinating story you were telling us before the break?
So once he got the pipe back, and that's when things were just kind of, or I guess you would say, in a state of jubilation there. So that's when he sought me out, and my other friend there, my older relative, friend of mine, he said, "Well, you guys need to bring that particular part of the Sundance back to where it's supposed to be, because up to that point, where like the information I shared with you, the Canadian government, they really severed the parts of the ceremony. Like we use buffalo tongues and all that for ceremonies because that's very sacred to us. And the Canadian government really destroyed the buffalo, and they wouldn't give us the sacred items that we use. And because of the fact that we're on a reservation, and in my opinion, on a reservation, we're all under house arrest, basically incarcerated.
Yeah, you were.
And if we tried to go out hunting, they destroyed the buffalo with us for us. So what are you supposed to do? And so we had, they really did a number on, destroying the ceremony. So when the pipe was returned, he told me, okay, this is what you need to do. So my friend and I, we did that. This is the Sundance that we did. And that's when he asked that, again, the question was, who can participate? We had local members there that said that they were in what they participated in, which we did. It was really, and when we first had our dance, they asked me, when do you think what date should we have that dance? And then I was thinking back so I said June 21st would be the perfect day, because that's the longest day of the year, and we have to show our appreciation for not being out to see the sun. We're going to dance with him for a full day, and just to show our gratuity of who we are. We need to do that, and we did. So that June 21st was a very long day for us, but it was very, very tiresome. We danced for a whole day. I think we started like 4:00 in the morning when the sun just rose in the morning that day, and then I think it went down after 11 o'clock. And we danced for him for a whole day, just to acknowledge and just to show our appreciation that we're back on, that we were on a journey to get everything away, what was taken away from us, what was severed. So we did the ceremony and all that. So one of the things that I did as an individual, I just didn't start doing. I went up on a vision on a sacred hill, and I asked, am I worthy to do a Sundance? And I did sacrifice my food and water. I had no food, no water for the 4 days that I was up on the hill. And that's when the spirits shared with me and said, okay, this is what you can do. And the composition of the dance, the structure, this is what they showed me. This is how your dance is going to be. And that first thing they shared with me was that, and they showed me the 4 colors. There's red, blue, black, white, and yellow. And the question is, do you know what they represent? And I said, well, I have somewhat of an idea. And I said, well, I think they represent the four basic graces of mankind. And they said, yes. Those are the people that they can come and dance with you at your dance. So I was already giving the blessings of the Creator, the spirits, for not invite, but they should show up. And I never turn anybody away. Whoever comes to dance, I just accept them. I don't question them. I don't do a background check. I don't do a pick on them. I just accept their word. You come to me, and I just honor their word.
Mm.
So that's how I do it with the dance, and that's why we have these people from the four colors there at our dance that show up. And again, I've had a lot of shunnings from the community, and they say the Caucasians, I shouldn't be there. Why are you allowing them? And I said, well, that's what the spirit showed me. Who can participate? It's not my decision. You're going to have to talk to the creator and ask him why these guys. So I'm just here to share the message for you. And again, that's what. And again, but it's I guess you'd say somewhat controversial at times, and people are getting upset with me. I said, no, don't be upset with me. Get upset with the creator. That's the one that I'm just following the message here. So, and that's why we have the dance, and then of all the things. And again, one of the things that I want to share is that the Canadian government really did their best to domesticate us, colonize us into the ways that they did everything was to, and they're still doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So this way of life, again, with my great grandpa Red Crow, he was a piercing sundancer, and on my mother's side, uh, my grandpa on my mother's side. He uh, he sang for those guys that would Sundance this way, and he was sharing with me that he said the last one that was allowed to dance on this reserve. He said my grandpa was the one that sang for him, and they almost got into trouble. They almost got sent to jail for doing the ceremony. Like as I shared with you some of those documents that I sent you. So
Mm-hmm.
just in a nutshell, that's the purpose of it. That's why I'm involved. And again, I try to follow the ways of the teachings, is to treat everybody alike and equality and they accept who they are. So that's kind of a nutshell of what things that I do. And again, on the female side, Karen wasn't able to join it because she was there's an equality between male and female.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot just as an individual just say, okay, I can do it by myself. I am required to include the females. So because of the balance. So as symbolized by night and day and the sun and the moon. The male is represented by the sun
Mm-hmm.
and the moon is represented by the females.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a balance. And then again, those are things that, so with the females in participation there, they have a whole lot of things that they do for the ceremony that I can't even not even do if the female's not around, if Karen's not around, I can't have the dance. But
Yes,
both
and
of us, Karen and I went up on a hill and asked permission, and they showed us how the dance was going to be, and that's what. And again, they showed us, and they also included us. They told us that we had to have the dance every second weekend in July,
hmm.
and we've been doing that. We've been doing that for the past 25 years. So we're just acknowledging the teachings or the message that we were given. So that's why we have the dance every second weekend in July.
Yes,
And
and
that's
having been to your Sundance this past weekend, I think it was, Karen's participation in that is in fact quite significant, and we
correct.
really, yeah, I mean it's clear you couldn't do it without her participation, and it is
Correct.
as a partnership. It's an equal partnership that you do. So, so you have been including non-native people for the last 25 years, did you say?
Yes, correct.
And I know that you've taken some serious slack from it. Even here on Sutton, I've talked to a few people who've said that no, it shouldn't be happening, it shouldn't be happening, and so
Yes, correct.
I know what you are dealing with when you say you're taking serious slack. It is serious. It
Yes,
is
correct.
the reading that you sent me was from a book called The Indian Commissioner, I think.
Yes,
And just for readers, what it said in there was that in 1895, they
Yes.
prohibited certain features of ceremonies that included giving away. So the potlatch in BC, where I'm from, you wouldn't, or even here, there's a giveaways after the feast, I believe. Those were the things that they prohibited. So in 1895, they did this prohibition around certain features
Yes. Correct.
of ceremonies, and it wasn't just a Sundance, because they did it for the potlatch in BC as well, where
Yes.
where people give away things. I mean, the wealth in First Nations culture is about what you can give, not what you can take, which is the complete opposite of white man culture. We, as a white
Yes.
person, I can say this, we conquer and destroy and consume and think we're the best because we can do it. Whereas in the First Nations communities, wealth is about what you can give and what you can provide, and what you can share. And as you said, compassion as well. So it's such an odd thing to look at this prohibition and see that giving away was prohibited, like being
Yes.
compassionate and sharing was prohibited. Such a bizarre thing. But the other thing was the mutilation of dead or living bodies, which I found really hypocritical, because circumcision has been on the books in white culture since 1850s. So the idea
Yes.
that piercing is somehow barbaric is really ridiculous when you think of what they're doing to the little tiny babies after
Yes.
they're born.
Yes.
So we just need to take a little break, Keith. So
Okay.
folks, don't go away. We'll be right back with Keith Chiefmoon about his Sundance.
I know I can fly. I know I can fly with, fly away with you. Seeds are growing wild. Seeds are growing wild. Then to fly away with you, fly away with you. Birds are flying high up in the sky, and they cry away for you, cry away for you.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and today I'm talking with Keith Chiefmoon about the Sundance here on the Kainai and Treaty 7 land. And Keith, we were talking about the different prohibitions that the Indian commissioners, I believe, or the Canadian government, in fact, put on First Nations ceremonies. And in specific, we were talking about mutilation and how hypocritical it is that they circumcised little boys but didn't want piercings to happen in Sundance. And I wanted to ask you, what does the piercing mean? Like, what does that mean for Sundancers? Why is it happening?
Okay, just to the information about this ceremony, it's a very sacred ceremony that was bestowed upon us from our messengers, the spiritual message that we and the purpose of this what they call mutilation, they call it a barbaric activity, and that type of thing. It's actually an offer from you as an individual. Like I could go down to some dealership and buy one of those really expensive cars, a Rolls Royce or a Lamborghini, they have all connected to money, but it never really belongs to me. It's somebody else's. And that money doesn't mean a thing to me. So, but when you take a part of your body, and that's the only thing, then it's very sacred to us. And when you offer it to the Creator as your way you're humbling yourself because you don't have anything else. That's the purpose of it. It's not a mutilation, and it's you're sharing your very secret part of your body. That's very sacred to you. You can't just go to Canadian Tire and buy yourself another. No, you can't, because it's part of you. Right. So when you do that, you're offering a part of you for whatever reason that you might like. For example, throughout the year, some of your relatives might be very sick, or some of your relatives might be, maybe they have some. We have had a lot of testimonials about how when people approach us for help, support, or guide, or prayers. And I just say, well, I'll include you in my prayers. This is what I do, and it's up to the Creator if he's going to. And again, we've had a lot of positive stories that people actually got better. They overcame their health conditions or challenges, and in a good way. So that is purpose of us offering part of us. Again, like for me, when I first got started, it was I offered so I can improve my way of life, because as I told you earlier, I was labeled as a savage, a wagon burner. I was labeled as a degenerate, ruin of the lowest form of man. All those acronyms, all those references, metaphors that were used, and a lot of people start to think that way. They say, but that can do nothing. So for me, when I first started dancing, I asked to help improve my way of life. And again, I'm very, very grateful to be able to say a lot of things in a good way happen. And again, I was able to help out with a lot of my people that I know. Was able to identify. My mother was diagnosed with terminal illness, and the doctor told her that she wasn't going to live not more than a few months. So I told my mother, I'm going to dance for you. We want you to stay with us for at least a few more years. And I danced for her, and we got the extension. That sort of things that use. I offered myself. I did the ceremony at Pierce, and that was as an example how I was able to get an extension to enjoy more time with my mother, and she was getting up in years.
Right.
because I was being selfish, and I said, well, he told me, she said, I'm really, really tired. I just, I believe this is the end of us. And so that's something we asked for an extension. And we got it. And then, so when she passed out, I was able to at least deal with it in a good way. So there are a lot of things that take place. A lot of families get in some kind of trouble. Some of them I've had some very good. One of the individuals that I that that I became acquainted with, he had the same journey. He had trouble with his addictions. He was ready just to give up. So he joined us, joined some ceremony, and today he's really enjoying himself. He is very he's his family, and he's doing very good. And he calls me right now and he said, okay, well, I told him don't forget to acknowledge the creator, the good things that happen. And again, the other thing too is you don't always have to ask the creator when you're in trouble. So every day for me, I ask the creator every day, thank you for everything, being able to do the things that I do. And also, and I ask the creator, give me some guidance. I don't know what kind of a day I'm going to have. There are days that get very challenging. So I just this thing, what I do is on, and there are some things, challenges out there, and when I had when COVID was out there, I asked the creator, and that COVID was a spirit. I acknowledged COVID. I said, okay, COVID, please leave me alone. I don't want to. I don't know how God can handle you because you are very powerful. So please, I'll very respectfully go out of your way. And I'm very, very, very blessed. I never got it. I had people around me that got it. My family got it. My daughters and my son, they all got it. And I just kept saying, I kept asking the Creator to protect me. And then, so I was able to. That's an example of what I look like because I was praying every day, and I
Right.
pray for people that for them not to get it. So there are examples of what you can do. So when you offer part of you, you give it to the Creator, and you ask Him, "This is all I have."
Right.
That's who I am. So
So is
that
it right to say then that the Sundance is about prayer?
yes, right. That, to its fullest,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's all about prayer,
Right.
and that's the power of prayer.
And I would imagine that just given the little I saw that in that prayer, that um, part of it is that you can't just like go to church and put a little money in the bucket and ask for a prayer
Yeah, of course.
and do it
Yes,
without any sort of sense of wholeness or authenticity. That the
yes,
Sundance
yes,
really does require you to be authentic in that prayer.
yes. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Including, I know you haven't done this to address racism. There's nothing that you've said that says you're doing this to address racism, but
Yes,
has it?
it has. I've had, I was there I went down to Maritimes and I shared with them the ceremonies and the Mi'kmaq. They follow the journey because from what they've told me, they had longer contact with European contact, longer than us. I think approximately 200 to 300 years longer than out here in West. So
Mm,
they really got hit big time. They really got that they had to, or they were forced to give up their ways. And one of the communities that I managed to, they came out west and they studied all the sun dances they could take in, and they chose the dance that I do. They said, "This is the one we want."
mm,
And then again, I had like we went through a ceremony. Again, they offered me tobacco and pipe, and we smoked, and we had ceremony. I said, okay, and I said, I'll share with you what little I know, but this is what I do, and they're still very active right now, and they're very appreciative of what. And then when they start doing the research, that's when they found out that they had ceremonies way back then.
Mm.
And then through the archives and through some information, some of the information was deliberately withheld to the communities, just so that they can go back and acknowledge their traditional way of life, and they really try to, I guess, cover it up by using the Christianity as that was the religion then.
Mm.
So it's ongoing, and so one of the things that really comes up in our way as a Sundancer is that we always have to be, again, follow the ways of the sun is to be respectful. You don't do the best you can. You follow the ways. You treat everybody with respect.
Mm-hmm.
There's a balance, equality, and you acknowledge who we are, and you don't try to overcome, try to impose or
Right.
dominate or say, no, this is you're under my control now. You just acknowledge who, and they have certain attributes that you can. Then you just accept them for who they are,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I try to do in my own little world here. I live here, so. And again, one of the things that's very important is complete abstinence from alcohol and drugs, because they are not a part of our way of life, and they never will be. I always say that they
Right.
never will be. So.
Well, I must say that while I was there, bumbling around, making mistakes and tripping over myself, that people were very kind and accepting of my errors and stuff. So I appreciated that very much, Keith. Thank you. That's it. Thank you so much for taking this time to chat with me and
You're most welcome.
let my
It's an honor.
listeners know a little bit more about what you're doing out here in Southern Alberta. I appreciate it, Keith. Thank you so much.
It's estimated that 1 in 2 Canadians will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. For many, the physical, emotional, and financial burdens are heavy. The Volunteer Cancer Drivers Society ensures they never have to worry about a ride to and from treatment, offering safe, reliable, and free transportation for all patients. Now they're expanding their service across the mainland, and they need more volunteer drivers to join their fleet. If you have a vehicle, a valid driver's license with at least 5 years of experience, and a passion for helping those in need, the Volunteer Cancer Drivers Society would love to have you. Visit volunteercancerdrivers.ca to learn more.
When I asked Keith if there was anything I missed that he would like to add to the conclusion I make, he said this, and I add it directly from him because, well, I can't say it any better.
Well, the conclusion is that's what we like. For me, I just want, look, all of us as human beings, we all want to have a good way of life, and we all want to be able to do certain things in a good way, and that's the bottom line. And again, like for me, I don't try to use this to control people. No, I don't. No. It's not my position. I ask to do is to share, to share the teaching, and to acknowledge certain people that they have certain challenges, issues that they require help, and I try to do my best to help them. So that's my only, I guess the only reward that I get is that when the individual come back to me and say, oh, well, yeah, somebody, so-and-so he's doing much better. He's coming around with his ailment, and that's all I hear. And again, cool. I'm very, very fortunate that my grandkids they're stepping up and they want to help us, which is really good.
That's great.
So I'm really grateful.
I love grandkids.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't want to. Yeah, and again, with everything is connected to the way of life. The drum is connected to it, and all the things that you saw. Everything in that is all connected to the way of life.
And that's our show, folks. I'm Bernadine Fox, and you've been listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. And we've been talking to Keith Chiefmoon from the Kainai Nation here on Treaty 7 lands in southern Alberta. And as such, we are recording on location, and the sound quality is not going to be what it is when I can control it in the studio. This is part one of a two-part program. Next week, we will be chatting with folks who've attended the Sundance and talk to them about what they get out of it and why they participate. My thanks to Keith Chiefmoon for chatting with me about the Sundance, and to Leah the dog in the background, who was adamant about adding her 2 cents. A shout out to David Laurent and Sherry Ulrich for the gift of their music, but as always, and more importantly, my thanks goes out to you for joining us today. Stay safe out there. If you have questions or feedback about this program, or want to share your story, or have something to say to us, we want to hear from you. You can reach us by email, rethreadingmadness@coopradio.org. This is Bernadine Fox. We'll be back next week. Until then.
When I can't seem to find my way under or over or through, just when I'm ready to give up the fight, there you are when we turn out the lights, and it's alright, it's alright. Don't you worry, it'll be alright. Why do I always believe it when you tell me everything's gonna be alright? Yeah. Why don't I wonder how you know? Well, surely you don't have all of the facts. You could be just making it up. Why don't I ever think of that? It's some kind of magic in the words that you breathe, saying, baby, take it from me. It's alright, it's alright. Don't you worry, it'll be alright. Why do I always believe it when you tell me everything's gonna be alright? Everything's gonna be alright. With anyone else, it's such a cliche, just words people say to be nice. Or somehow when they fall from your lips, I'm convinced you're right. When I'm weary and so tired, when I'm worn out and done, when I fall off the wire again, with no more strength to get back on, there you are with that voice in my ear, saying the words that I need to hear. It's alright, it's alright. Don't you worry, it'll be alright. Why do I always believe it when you tell me everything's gonna be alright? Oh, everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Yeah, yeah.
Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM, dares to change how we think about mental health. This is Bernadine Fox, inviting you to join us every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. as we broadcast from the unceded traditional territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. That's Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM, every Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m.